Welcome to APCUG's Saturday Safari, where we explore technology in depth. Today, we're meeting to talk about hybrid meetings. Many of our groups are moving to hybrid. Some groups are staying online for financial reasons and other physical reasons, and some are going back to full meetings. But we want to focus today on including online people and in-person people so that everyone feels they are part of the program. All of you today are on the panel for sharing with us all of what you know about hybrid meetings, what works, what's not. So to begin with, I'm going to turn things over to Judy. Bill James is our co-host. If you have any problems with Zoom today, fire him a text message and he'll try to help. And Judy will also, if you don't want to physically, verbally ask questions and you want to hide behind the chat box, you can put a question or a comment in the chat box and send it to Judy. And I'll just make sure everything goes well. So Judy.
Thank you so much for attending. We really appreciate this. And if you are having successful hybrid meetings, please let us know how. We have many groups that are thinking about doing it now. And we did one of these in January, and it was kind of new to a lot of people, but some more people are coming onto the bandwagon. So please don't be shy. And just tell us how you do it, what kind of equipment you use, what has worked for you. And you said, oh, this is really horrible. Don't ever do that. And those of you who are thinking about it, ask the questions. Ask specific questions of the person who just said, this is how we run our meeting and it works really well. And, you know, have them drill down a little bit. And then during Q&A, this is just extra Q&A time for all of the presentations we get. If you have a burning question about Windows 11, Chromebooks, Macs, Linux devices, feel free to ask, and somebody will be more than happy to answer that question, okay? And on the administrative side of putting these things together, I don't know how I can make it more clear, or if you guys know how I can make it more clear, send me an email about, don't check that box that says I have looked and all my answers are correct, unless you've actually done it. Aha, thank you, Dick Mason. I love that laugh. You must have been there, done that. And I had well over 10 people mess up. And I would actually use a word other than that. That takes my time. I send them an email and say, I need your registration information, because sometimes the president of a group will get in touch and say, hey, how many of my people attended? They don't want to know who attended, but how many people attended. I'm sure they would like everybody in that count. 2 or 3 times, the registration link has been sent to people who are not members of APCUG groups. This is a benefit of your membership, not the neighbor next door or the other organization. So please take the time, smell the roses, and really, when I say computer club user group address, not your email address, not your street address, not your acronym, I really mean it. I got one with the street address, email bounced, hard bounce. I have nobody to ask. I got another one who keyed in the wrong information on his email address, but there was another member of their group there, and I forwarded the reg link, the Zoom link to that person and said, could you please forward it? Okay, so among everything else that I do, this takes me time. I would love it to have a 100%, everybody took the time and smelled the roses before they clicked on submit. Thank you so much. I am now stepping off my soapbox.
Okay, our mics will be available we would ask you that until you are taking a turn to talk, not to turn your mic on because of all the extraneous noises, people walking in the room behind you and stuff like that. With the number of people that we have and the number of screens, it's just not going to work that if you want to share to put up this hand, because I have on my computer 4 different screens of people and I can only see one at a time. So we have this nifty thing at the bottom where you can click on reactions and raise your hand like Judy has done. And what's nice is that takes you, your picture and your name to the very top of our attendance list so we can see right there. Oh, and we know who's next to call. So please use that. Makes it easy for us to find you, because if you just start talking, you might be on screen 3 and won't have you. So that way you get on there. All right, so Judy's going to take it over and call for some help, and we'll just start discussing and talking about hybrid meetings.
Or somebody will get in touch with, John or me and say, XYZ person that we can't see has their hand raised. Okay. And for me, I don't use the participants list, and I'm the one who calls on you guys. You're on, in line in order, think kindergarten, and in the upper left-hand corner of my screen. So as long as you are participating and talking, leave your hand up, because the minute you lower your hand, you go someplace else. So we want you up there close where people can see you. Okay, our topic is, are you having a good hybrid meeting? Who wants to be the first one to get the ball rolling to let us know how their hybrid meeting is working and what you are doing to make it work? And we have our friend from Australia. Richard, you're on.
Yes, we have been running a few hybrid meetings, and the main thing that we found, it's critical that only the presenter's machine in the meeting has the sound output and microphone input on. Any other machine in that meeting room has to be muted and the sound turned off. Otherwise, you'll be in all sorts of trouble with audio feedback. Right.
Thank you. And I do know that's critical, because I have been giving presentations where it would be squealing until they got that they needed to turn the extra microphone off. The next person in line is Judith Constable.
Hello, my name is, as you said, Judith Constable, and we tried a hybrid meeting last season and it did not work. We found that the people left immediately because they couldn't hear. So we went to the board and we said, can you help us with this? And they said, no, we don't know how to do it as yet. So they said, you have to have special microphones. So we don't know what we're going to do with hybrid this season. And we're not sure whether we're going back into our clubhouse or how to work with it. That's my comment.
Okay, what group are you with?
I'm with the Bellagio Computer Technology Group in Palm Beach County.
They're in Florida.
Yes.
And as people talk about how they're doing it, you're going to be able to find that it sometimes is just super simple to set it up, that you don't need, a huge amount of stuff. But are you in an amphitheater type thing? Are you just in everybody's sitting flat on the floor?
We're sitting flat on the chairs and in a media room, which is not a gigantic room, but we have, well, as of now, we have maybe 30 people that come to the media room, but this hybrid situation is not working for us, and we don't know when we're going to go in-house.
Yeah. Have you done a survey of your members to find out if the majority of them want to do in-house meetings?
We kind of talk to them. A lot of them aren't ready. So we want to make sure that they can participate.
Okay. Now, Are your, so you're tier, okay, you're not in a tiered room then. Okay, somebody along the way is going to tell us how to make that very easy for you. And that might be Kurt Trout.
Good morning. A couple of things. The comment about Richard's comment, it is not sufficient when you have multiple computers in your combined room. It is not sufficient to simply turn down the volume and mute the microphone on your non-primary machine. Okay, that will almost certainly cause you some problems. If you want to have a second machine in there, and there's reasons to do that, okay, the audio must be disconnected. Okay, it's something that you have to walk people through just about every time. Okay, but audio must be disconnected. That's especially important if somebody wants to join the meeting in your meeting room from a smartphone. Okay, because generally you cannot turn the volume down low enough not to have problems. Over the past couple of years, I've gotten a lot of experience hosting hybrid meetings, not for the Twin City PC Users Group, mostly for my church. And I have a question related to TCPC, but one of the most important things that you can do in having a hybrid meeting now in your meeting room, okay, is have good audio. Okay, we like to think that if we're in a room, people can hear us without a microphone. That's very frequently not the case. So the first thing that you need to do is have good audio in that room. Frequently, that'll require using a microphone, whether it's wired or wireless. Pass it around to the people that are talking. Teach your people that are using a microphone. Okay, good microphone etiquette. The room that I use most often and the PA system in there, the microphone looks like a tennis ball on a stick. You've all seen them. That microphone is rather directional. And if you're talking into it right on, it works great. If you get off axis, the audio level goes down a lot. I found my people telling my speakers frequently to eat the microphone. Okay, but that's the key, a key factor. If you don't have good audio in your meeting room, you're not likely to have good audio for your remote people. The other thing that we've found is that a special microphone, a boundary microphone, okay? And I can show you the box for one right now. This is a $35 or a $40 microphone. It's USB, it's relatively high quality. It's an Audio Technica ATR 4697-USB, okay? If you place that so that it can pick up audio from your in-room speakers, okay, you are very likely to get very good results. You may have to manually adjust the microphone volume in your Zoom settings, okay, but that works, and it works very, very well. Okay, lapel mics and things like this just simply don't work well. Okay. The setup that we've started using is that if we have a speaker that's going to use a presentation, okay. Let me back up just a second. We take our host machine and we connect it to the AV system that we have in the room. Okay, the video is either mirrored or extended onto a projector. The projector is connected to part of the sound system. The HDMI connection that we use from our host computer, okay, HDMI goes to the projector. Audio in our particular configuration goes out via HDMI and then into the audio amplifiers and speakers that are in the room. If we have a presenter that's going to do screen sharing, we have them join the Zoom meeting without audio now, and we share when they're doing their presentation, they share it. That allows us to pick it up and put it on our screen, and everybody else sees it in a manner analogous to the way you're seeing me right now. Even though they have audio disconnected, if they want to play a video or something like that, as long as they've allowed for audio to be handled with the sharing, that'll work just fine. It's not a problem at all. Our remote people, we operate in 2 different modes depending upon the kind of meeting. Sometimes we force their video and audio off if we're doing something like a webinar to simulate a webinar. Otherwise, we turn it on. There was something else in my list of things to do that has slipped my mind. But I have a question for all of you. Okay. A year ago, as we came out of the pandemic, we set up for a couple of hybrid meetings, and let's just say that our attendance was very, very disappointing. Okay. And our group does not seem to have a great desire to come back meeting in person. We're a little bit sensitive to that because there's a couple of us that, take it upon ourselves to go set up meeting rooms and arrange to have a meeting room because we don't have a permanent space that we can use. So I'm wondering, how do you get your people wanting to come back? I've probably forgotten a few things. One other thing we do. We take in order to cut down on cables, and we all know what PC really means. It doesn't stand for personal computer. It stands for plenty of cables, okay? To cut down on cables, okay, we use a smartphone connected to our meeting. We set it up on a stand pointing at our podium area. We call it speaker cam, okay? We use that to show the speaker area, particularly if while they're not sharing. One other thing that we do, that smartphone, okay, and the smartphone that we have has no cellular service for it. We just connect it via Wi-Fi, connected to the meeting, and go with it. We take the video from that smartphone and we highlight that for all viewers. Okay. What this does is it takes all of our remote people and makes them think they're sitting in the front row. Okay, when we're not doing sharing. There's one drawback to that, and that is, and if someone's got a solution to this, I'd love to know what it is. Whenever you have a smartphone in a Zoom meeting for video, our experience is that the aspect ratio is 4:3. And I'd really like to have that, what is native for the phone, which is 16:9. Because the way we take and set this up, the 4:3 aspect ratio gives us a fairly narrow view, relatively narrow view of the speaker area. So with that, I'll answer questions and look for answers to how do we get people that want to come back.
Kurt, I wanted to clarify on that neat looking speaker that you have. You said you put that closer to the speakers that would be from your room.
What really works great with this Okay, and I wish I had it. It's on loan to somebody that was hosting a meeting this last week. It looks sort of like a thin hockey puck. We actually take this and set it right on the desk with the laptop that's hosting the machine. And it's in the room in such a way that the room has overhead speakers, okay, speakers that are in the ceiling tiles. This microphone is sitting on a desk sort of underneath one of those. And it works very, very well. And then people that are in the room, okay, we encourage them to either speak very loudly or to use a microphone. And one other thing that I'll bring up when you have somebody in the room that's taking questions, and this is a sort of speaker etiquette. When somebody in the back of the room asks a question, the speaker should take and repeat it, because there's a high probability that the remote people did not hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's extremely important to repeat that. And I'm sort of the voice from above, and I prefer to host meetings from not within the room, but I'm the voice from above that says, repeat the question, and I'm not at all bashful about doing it. Okay, it's very important.
There should be somebody designated at each meeting. It's usually the program chair, and it's their responsibility to repeat the question automatically without having anybody ask. That's your job at this meeting, and repeat the question so the presenter coming in from Zoom can hear it and understand it. Kurt, I need you to put the model number and name and all that good kind of stuff in the chat box of your hockey puck there. Hopefully it's on the box.
It is.
And, from what he said, now we all don't have overhead speakers. Usually we walk into a room and we got tables and chairs, and that's it. Many groups walk into the room and there's nothing there. They have to set up the tables and chairs. I walked into my room. We decided to be all Zoom with my laptop and my projector and a round speaker that I got at the Southwest Tech Conference years ago. I have no problem. I have a laptop, a projector, and that round speaker, and that's it. The microphone on my laptop would pick up the questions, or I would repeat it. Super simple. Many groups are going to all Zoom meetings because the person that takes everything in and, would you please set that up over there? Joke, come on over. Can you help us set it up? It's tired of doing that. And so therefore those groups are staying as Zoom only groups because they've set up the meeting room for year after year after year, and they just don't want to do it anymore. And people aren't, stepping up to the plate. I have some questions that I need to ask you.
I have one more comment before I forget it.
Okay.
We also try to have, and we'll sometimes do this with the speaker's computer. That's not ideal, but we'll frequently have another computer, another laptop in the room participating in the meeting without audio. Okay, and we will designate that that participant, if you will, to be a recipient of questions and comments from our remote audience. Okay, to facilitate that, we take that computer and we rename it, and the first character in the name becomes an asterisk, and it'll be something like asterisk questions and comments. The asterisk takes and puts it at the top of the chat list participants after hosts, and gives us a place. And now we can have one person look at the chats. And now the meetings that we've been doing this past summer, and that's where a lot of my experience comes from, and that we have a different speaker every week. Okay, and a small core of people that are setting up the equipment for that. So while we try to get our speakers to connect with us ahead of time so we can tell them what to what to expect, that doesn't work very well. I don't think I've had anybody actually take advantage of that, but we've had pretty good results.
To clarify what you said, you're using the local mic to local speakers and then use the mic Kurt suggested would then pick up the audio from the local speaker for use over the Zoom to the remote people.
That is correct.
Okay. Somebody else recommended a Samsung mic, and I have that information. It's omnidirectional. And JJ says, right on, Kurt, I agree with you about the smartphone. He also uses iPods. And can you use an Amazon Echo or the like as a room mic speaker? That's a yes or no question.
I would doubt it, but I don't know.
Okay, that's a question for Google. I don't know. Anyway, thank you so much for that.
I would say a no because it's not a broadcasting mic.
Right.
Just
And I would say that already with just the first person kind of first couple people, I've got some good new ideas for sharing with people. Terrific.
Oh, my other question was, you said to disable the mic on one of the computers. Do you mean just go into Windows and turn it off?
No. Okay. All of you can do this right now, assuming you're on a computer. You can click that up arrow that is next to the microphone. And at the bottom of the list, you will see leave computer audio. If you are joining a meeting from your smartphones, we do this. We join using a manual connection. Now that's not very difficult, because if you're using a Zoom client and you're not signed into Zoom, okay, when you see that meeting ID number, if you have ever connected to a meeting before, that meeting number will be in a drop-down list. And in our case, it's always the first thing in the drop-down list. And when we connect, we enter the passcode manually. There is an option there to connect or not connect. I don't remember exactly which way it's worded, but to not connect audio. Okay, you must disconnect the audio. And unfortunately, Zoom uses different terms for the same thing. In the Windows client that I'm looking at right now, it says leave audio. When you all took and joined this meeting, okay, you got a dialog box that said connect computer audio. Okay, and rotely you took, I suspect, and said, yes, do that. Okay, for the computers that are going to be in your meeting room that are not your host computer, just ignore that box, click somewhere else, it'll go away. Okay, it may say you want to connect via telephone. Well, that's okay, except you never have to call in via telephone. And something I'm giving strong consideration to is eliminating support for telephones, not smartphones, but telephones in my meetings. They frequently are not used, okay? Overwhelmingly are not used, okay? The fact that we support them makes our Zoom invitations 1.5 yards long, with most of it being telephone numbers that are never going to get used, okay? Telephone passcodes that are never going to get used because people tend not to use it. So I'm giving strong thought to just, the option is so rarely used in several of my meetings that I'm thinking about just not supporting it at all.
Thank you. Joel Sandberg, you're on.
Thank you. I was in the meeting that Judy was talking about. I'm a member of the club that she leads now. I was in the meeting room. The reason it failed was the speakers did not pass the microphone back and forth. So even the people in the meeting room only heard the natural voice and did not hear what was going through the amplifier system, and therefore it did not get out to the Zoom. That's, speakers have to learn how to act in a electronic media. Why they didn't use the microphone is they only saw 20 people in front of them, and that's who they presented to. They ignored the 20 or so that were on Zoom. I would like to remind Kurt, I would also like the model and brand of the equipment he's recommending so that we can consider it. Judy is trying to get our board of directors who runs the meeting room to purchase equipment, but right now we don't know enough to buy the right equipment. Getting to that, seeing below me is Huey Poplock. Huey, about a year ago, you ran a meeting discussing equipment in hybrid meetings. Could you help us find that link? Because there was an hour of good equipment references and why each model and feature was beneficial. The other thing that I've got to be a little bit concerned about what Kurt was recommending is having technical staff capable of doing what he's saying. Several meetings about hybrid meetings end up needing a technical person running the room computer, running the Zoom back and forth while you have a speaker concentrating on his technical presentation. I'm not sure we always have that, depending upon the groups you're working on. I believe Judy would agree that we don't always have a second technical person who could run a computer. In our case, if Don isn't in the room, one of our members who is technically savvy and competent. We need the right equipment and we have to learn the setups so this can be pretty much self-running. I do not believe we will have enough technical people to do this. We need to be able to set it up once, repeat the setup, make a technical script, and just go as close to full automatic as possible. Thank you for your help.
Joel, every group needs to have what you call the script. I would have bullet points or steps. One, this is what you do first, second, third, fourth, and have it written, typed out, so to speak, in a minimum of 14 size font. 16 would even be better, so all the old folks can read it with no problem. If there's something specific that needs to be highlighted or bold or something, and make it in, like John and I do, elementary school language, and make it just so simple. It's, and we want you to plug this in, it's in the back, and this is what it looks like. And that way, everybody that's going to help has that piece of paper, and they don't have to remember it, and the steps are crystal clear. And if the first time you do this, they go, this doesn't make any sense.
Part of the problem is
to make it better.
Part of the problem is we don't have a dedicated piece of hardware in our meeting room. It's the presenter or a member is bringing personal laptop, and therefore setup and software are not always identical. So it's difficult to prepare your step-by-step script, instructions, bulletin list. I'm hoping we've got to learn enough so that we can prepare that script and several options occasionally, depending upon how the individual has set up their personal equipment, which they're loaning to the group each time, month by month.
John Kraut can answer that, but I'm going to answer it for him. The presenter brings his information on a flash drive and sticks it into the club's computer. Hands down, that's it. And that's the way they took care of the situation, I believe. And if you, unless they have some program that nobody uses but them, it works just fine. And I'm going to pass the baton to John Kraut from the Potomac Area Technology Computer User Group Society.
Hi, I too have a what's called a PZM or boundary microphone. It looks like that. It's an oldie. You can't get it anymore. So I'm not going to give you the model details, but Crown International sold their entire microphone line to another audio outfit, and they raised the price. These things used to be available for about $60 each, and now it's $250. So that's not good news, I admit it. I want to point out a couple of sources of audio feedback that you can easily avoid. One of those is on the desk of the person who is participating remotely, and that is whatever they use as a mic and whatever they use as speakers are too close together. And there's a simple solution. You see several people on this meeting using that solution. Dave Hutchison with the very interesting t-shirt from the 8-bit days is one of them. Dan D, who doesn't look like a Dan to me, but maybe I'm wrong. Jeff Wilkinson, Richard Kidd, several others. You can see in my case, they're earbuds, but earbuds or headphones will isolate the audio coming to your ears from your microphone, and therefore there will be no feedback. We've had a lot of problems with that in our club, but over time, our folks have learned this is the technique at the remote participant site to avoid that. Oddly enough, the technique at the meeting site for a hybrid meeting is roughly the same. Keep the microphones as far away as possible from the speakers. Loudspeakers, that is. Now, in terms of people using the microphones, one of the great advantages of these boundary mics is that they are flat. And so if your people sit at a table, you can put the microphone in the middle, and as long as the people face the microphone when they ask a question or make a comment, then the microphone will pick it up clearly. That's what boundary mics are designed to accomplish. As for keeping the speakers as far away from the microphones as possible, if the speakers are built into the room, then you've got to play some games with where you seat people in order to avoid that feedback. Beyond that, I think we've got a great many of diverse local meeting site situations here. We've described some where there's almost no equipment in the room and we have to bring it in every time. In my case, the room has been populated with a great deal of equipment, and we have the flexibility to recommend improvements, acting as the technical advisor to the landlord. So it varies all over the map. I admit that, and that's why I've tried to give you feedback ideas that fit in most circumstances. I will mention one other. If you have the luxury of using a graphic equalizer for your loudspeakers, or a mixer with high, low, and mid frequency controls, turn down the frequency that seems to be the main portion of the audio feedback. Most of the time it will be high frequencies, so cut the high frequencies. Let's face it, at our age, we can't hear them anyway. So cut the high frequencies, and that'll greatly reduce feedback if the other techniques don't work for you. And that's it.
John meets in a university, okay? So he has all kinds of grand and glorious and wonderful equipment. I would say the majority of the groups are bare bones. We don't have that kind of luxury that you guys do. over to Pierre from the newly renamed Tech Ed Connect Group, formerly known as the Westchester PCUG. You're on, Pierre.
Thank you, Judy. Yes, we have renamed ourselves, but that's not the point of this meeting. I have a few questions that I have jotted down as people were talking. When Kurt was trying to find the wording on when you join from a smartphone, it says on your smartphone when you join your meeting, join with cellular, Wi-Fi, or no audio. And I think that's what you were referring to, Kurt.
That's true. The wording is different depending upon the client that you're using. The Android client has an option to not connect audio as part of the sign-in process.
Right.
And unfortunately, Zoom uses different terms to mean the same thing in different clients.
Yes, I'm with you on that. Yes, I understand.
And telling people that they must join without audio or disconnect their audio, okay, is a difficult concept to get across because most people have never done that.
Yes, of course. And it's counterintuitive too.
Yep.
Okay. When you mention, when you, but still thinking of that smartphone that you're using pointing to the stage or the speaker, you said you highlight that cell phone. What did you mean by highlight?
Okay, if you are the host of a meeting, okay, you will have available to you whether you have it up or not. And when I'm hosting a meeting, I like to use two monitors. One of them will go to the overhead, and the other one will be one that I see. You can go in there for any participant and click the three dots, and there is an option called Spotlight for all users. Okay, when you do that to an individual, okay, their video becomes video for everybody. There's ways to get around it, but by default, their video becomes available to everybody all the time, whether they're speaking or not. Now, right now, I suspect you see me full screen. And I'm sorry for that, but okay. But,
actually, we don't, but that's okay. Oh, now we do.
Okay.
Somebody did something.
Yes, somebody just spotlighted me for everybody. Now, Pierre, I'm going to ask you to say something, and I'm going to shut up to demonstrate something.
Yes, okay. So I have a few more questions. So let's see what
okay.
happens.
Now, while you were speaking, I stayed in the screen.
Yes, you did.
Because I have been spotlighted.
Okay.
Like I'm always talking, whether I am or not.
Yes. It's funny because I host meetings several times a week and I've never paid attention to that option, but now
you can also spotlight, I believe, up to 9 people simultaneously.
And how do they show up on the screen?
Side by side.
Interesting.
In fact, if somebody wants to demonstrate that, they can, spotlight several of us.
Yeah, can you highlight a few more, whoever is doing it?
John Kennedy.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that could prove
I'm the guy with
useful.
the magic fingers.
Yes.
Yes, that could prove extremely useful indeed.
Absolutely. Now, do not confuse spotlighting with highlighting, which is also
you used the word highlighting earlier, but okay, that's fine. Okay, I got you.
Okay, highlighting is something that pertains to the individual computer. Okay, spotlighting is something that a host can do, and it affects everybody's computer.
Can the co-host do this, or does it have to be the host?
I believe a co-host can also do it.
Okay, good. Okay, let me go on to my other questions. The microphone that you showed, I don't know what to call it, the box that you showed. Where do you locate that microphone? You said under a speaker in the room, but not every room is going to have speakers on the ceiling.
Okay,
What would be the recommended location?
someplace where it has a view of a speaker. Okay,
Okay,
I think there's a confusion here in terms of nomenclature. There's loudspeakers and then there are people speaking. You mount the microphone close to the person speaking. You
no,
don't want it close to the loudspeaker.
I want the person speaking using a microphone and coming through the loudspeakers. Now, in the best setup that I have available to me, I have a speaker that is above the table where I have my laptop set up, and I simply take the boundary microphone, plug it into my laptop, and set it behind my screen. And
so
forget
you call that the boundary microphone. Okay, that's the term I forgot.
yes,
The boundary microphone is capturing the sound from the speakers overhead.
yes,
And that's what's going to be fed to Zoom.
correct.
Okay. And there's still another microphone, the tennis ball microphone for the presenter. I'm not going to call it the speaker, for the presenter.
Yes, and that's
Okay.
part of the room AV system.
Okay, so that sound will be captured by the boundary microphone as well.
Yes, because it will go through the PA system in the room,
Right. Okay,
through those physical speakers, through the air as a medium, okay, to the boundary microphone.
okay. Now, how do you capture people in the room asking questions, or do you have to repeat them no matter what?
There are two ways to do that, okay? I have a couple of people that are in my meetings usually that don't need a microphone. You know, remote people can open their windows and hear them. Okay. They're not a problem. Other people in the room, okay, the room that I'm thinking about now, the large room that I use, will probably seat 75 to 100 people in it. Okay. We either take a microphone and bring it to them, or we repeat the question.
Okay. So if I understand you correctly, you only have one computer doing all the Zoom work in the room, correct?
We can think of it that way. We'll use another computer if we want. Another computer for the speaker themselves. Okay, I like and this has worked remarkably well. Okay. Virtually every speaker that we have had this summer, and we have a different one every week, has been participating in Zoom meetings for 2.5 years. They've been sharing presentations for 2.5 years. Okay. When they come into the room and we say, join our Zoom meeting, it's not a problem for them. The other thing that, you know, if we go back a year ago to doing this without Zoom, every time somebody came in, they had to figure out, what cable do I need to go into the AV system to get picked up by the projector? None of that happens.
Yes, I understand.
Okay. Tomorrow when I host a meeting, I'm going to walk in with my laptop, the power cords for my laptop, okay, the microphone. In the room, I have
The boundary microphone, you mean, right?
boundary microphone, yes.
Yep.
Okay. Actually, somebody else is walking in with it, or I'd be able to show it to you today. Okay. I'm going to connect my computer to power to an Ethernet cable that's always there. Wi-Fi can get you in trouble. Okay, for your main computer, if you got a choice to do it wired, go wired. Okay. If Zoom has bandwidth connections, and I've seen them with USB connections, in rooms where I expect to have a strong USB, or not USB, Wi-Fi signal, and that audio is what suffers first. And we don't notice when we have video problems, but wired connection. But I will connect Ethernet. I will connect an HDMI cable that lives in the room now. I installed it there permanently a few weeks ago, so I don't have to haul one. I connect my computer and I'm done.
And the speaker computer is just like any other attendee on the Zoom meeting, basically. It plays a secondary role, correct?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
yes, it's secondary to the meeting. It's what they present with.
Yes, I understand.
Okay. And they're running their own software. You know, they don't, it's something they're used to doing.
Okay. I agree with the comment that you need to dedicate a techie to attend to the Zoom stuff, in quote. I agree with that might be a problem for some meetings or some clubs, but hopefully not for ours. Now, using the club's computer for the presenter is not always doable, especially if there is live demos involved, not just a PowerPoint. But I understand that it makes things a lot easier, but it would not necessarily work every time, particularly from a security point of view. Not everybody wants to have a foreign USB key plugged into their laptop. I haven't checked and my last point is I haven't checked the chat, but I'm assuming that the boundary microphone that is recommended has been posted.
I sent it to Judy.
Okay. And that's all I have for now. Thank you.
What about the old days when I would walk into an in-person meeting and I could get my choice between a headset mic or a clip-on mic? Is that advantageous for anything?
Use whatever works well in your room, and there's no reason why you should use one or the other. One other comment that I will make: I have a very similar setup in a small to medium-sized conference room. It's a conference room that we have meetings in every other week. The monitor in there. There is no projector. There is, however, a 65-inch TV on the wall, which we hook up to exactly the same way we do in the large room. In that case, there is no in-room audio-visual AV system, no in-room microphones for in-room speakers. Everybody can hear everybody else. And we take the boundary mic, we put it in the middle of the table. We sometimes have to move it around on the table when we got people talkers, okay, that are not particularly loud. But that same setup works, the same ideas work.
The boundary mic is what we had in the conference room or the board room for meetings and things like that from back in the day when we all worked or are still working. Huey, it's your turn.
Yeah, I've got several items in response to what people were saying, and then some other things. One was somebody asked about the video that I did on hybrid meeting equipment. I will try to find that after I speak, because I'm going to have to go out and find where I had that. I have shared it at one of the the APCUG meetings, so I've got it somewhere. The issue about the speaker having his own equipment or her own equipment when they come in, sometimes they need that. As somebody mentioned, that they're going to be demonstrating some software, and working on a strange computer for some of the speakers sometimes is difficult for them. To have it on a stick, a lot of times if they save their PowerPoint on a stick, they don't realize that they were pointing to either a video or some graphics somewhere else on their computer. And when they stick that stick into somebody else's computer, things are missing out of their presentation. So sometimes that can be an issue. The two groups that I'm associated with, and the Central Florida group in Orlando and the Sarasota group in Western Florida, the meetings were always in different places, or places we only had access for during our meetings. Sometimes they were Denny's restaurants, a back room, or it was some type of a meeting room, or in a library, and which was used by other groups right up to sometimes to the point of our meeting. They left and we walked in. So there wasn't any equipment there, and we had to haul everything in some cases, not even a screen. We had to put up the screen and so on. So moving your meetings around, you really got to get in and test the equipment beforehand, and so you can eliminate the issues of feedback and issues of people not being able to hear, and which computer is going to do what. And so it involves people. And sometimes we don't have the number of people to be able to do that, or they're not all available at the same time. So that is an issue for a lot of groups. Now, recently I did a survey for the Sarasota group. I sent out an invite to over 317 people, I think it was, to fill out the survey. And people said, your surveys just don't seem to work. I was lucky. I had over 42% return. In other words, I think it was 152, 154 people returned the surveys about having hybrid meetings. The majority of the people, almost 60%, said that when they're ready, they would like to have in-person hybrid meetings and they would attend a hybrid meeting. However, they're not ready yet, because we were only getting between 8 and 12, 15. I think 15 was the most we ever got at a meeting. And 3 or 4 of those were officers or people trying to set up and somebody taking attendance. So when you got down to it, we only had a handful of people. So starting this coming month, September, we're going back to straight Zoom meetings because of that. It was a lot of work and only a few people showed up. The speaker was speaking to just 3 or 4 people while we had 60 or 70 people online, or some meetings a little bit less than that. But the surveys showed me one big thing, and that was that people back, as Judy says, back in the day, formally we'd hold a meeting and people would come. Now what people are telling me in those surveys is they're going to look at what the presentation is going to be. And if they're not interested, they're not coming, and they may not even watch it on Zoom. Where before, if you held a meeting, if it was a computer club meeting, people were going to show up because, number one, the camaraderie and the friendships that they had developed through the people in the groups, but also because they wanted to learn something new. But things have changed, and you can be on a Zoom meeting 24 hours a day if you want, from all different kinds of groups and YouTube videos and so on. So it's your user group is not their only source of information. So you've got to give them something they want. So you've got to be careful in the topics that you're going to use.
You forgot to mention food.
Food is good, and that attracts people. But if you're doing it in the library, you got a problem. If you're doing it in a restaurant, the restaurant a lot of times says, well, you got to have so much in sales, otherwise we're going to charge you for the room, or we're going to charge you so much for the room, but you have to do so much in sales. So sometimes it varies on how you're going to do the food. So some of you have meetings in a church or in some kind of a classroom or a school situation where you've got countertops and you've got some availability for things that you can use to serve food, and other places you can't. So
and what was your incentive for members to return the survey if they added their name?
Yeah, if they added their name, but they didn't have to do that. We did a giveaway, and we're going to be, actually, I haven't even picked the name yet, and I've got to do it. Out of the 140 responses I had, I think about over half of them put their email address down, and we're going to give them an Amazon gift card.
So
because
that's
the Amazon gift card is better than any kind of other giveaway, because you can just send them the number of the card or the information. You don't have to mail them anything.
And to get the responses, you need to have something for them, and that's your Amazon gift card.
Yeah.
And you can still have door prizes. We have one group that says, I'm sorry, since we're not meeting in person, we can't have door prizes. Oh, yes, you can. They're just gift cards from here, there, or wherever.
And let's see if there was anything else on here. No, I think that's all I have right now, and I'm going to go look for that information that somebody requested.
Thank you. Dave Brown.
Hello, everybody. Is my audio okay today?
Yep, we just can't. There you go. And you're with what group?
TUGNet, Los Angeles, specifically San Fernando Valley. And thank you, Judy. This I'm getting a cramp from writing so many good notes here. Kurt, I am particularly grateful that you mentioned Spotlight, and I could not agree with you more regarding hardwire versus Wi-Fi in particular, but we've had people with Bluetooth headsets and all sorts of silly things go on. I've got a couple of questions and a couple of recommendations on the to drive in-person meeting attendance. Traditionally, we have like 6 or 7 p.m. start times, which is a lot of people's dinner time, or they're commuting back from work. They haven't eaten, so we offer a light dinner. That could be as light as sandwiches, but sometimes we'll have a pasta and a salad or something. We always try to balance the donuts against the other food groups, of course. It works. Our preliminary surveys have indicated that we do not expect to have nearly the number of people that we used to get in. By the way, our meeting room is right behind me here. Big flat room, highly reflective surfaces. Let's see, you can't see the, to my right is floor-to-ceiling windows with a very, very thin gauze curtain, which is even more reflective. So our ambient noise level in there is ridiculous. And when the air conditioning comes, or the ventilation comes on, which with COVID, it's on full blast, our noise floor in there is a little bit stupid. So we also are a huge fan of boundary microphones. They work great under almost every situation. The only, not even specialty, but more useful mic might be a very directional mic, like a conventional handheld mic, where somebody using proper mic technique is not picking up the ambient noise from the room. And on those boundary mics, what we found is take a little piece of neoprene, foam, anything, doesn't have to be very thick, but a little something to isolate the physical boundary microphone itself from the surface you set it on, because there's always people like, you know, tapping their fingernails or tapping their pen or banging their Viking mead, you know, stein or something like that. That's a very distracting intermittent sound. If you can eliminate that, plus sometimes it might reduce a little bit of the lower frequencies that we don't need or want for vocals. Let's see here. John Kraut mentioned turn down your highs. Frankly, if you can figure out how to do it, we accentuate our high frequencies because our audience and participants are generally older and have diminished high frequency hearing. So if we can get some added intelligibility out into the room, people don't repeat, you know, don't have to, what'd you say? It just helps move things along better. The higher intelligibility we have, that can be a real challenge, as John pointed out, but we've tried numerous tricks to achieve that. I put a thing in the chat. We've successfully deployed a couple of center cam combo miniature video cam microphone thing on a little gooseneck. And the beauty of it is they have a variety of clamps. You can put them anywhere. And right now I've got one right here. I've got dual monitors. So what I did is I put it in between the two monitors. And so if I look at it, or it's discreet enough, I could put it in the middle of my screen, which I haven't done at the moment, but it makes it look like I'm looking at the camera. So it increases that trustworthy level, you know, when you look somebody in the eyes. For our audience, we use a RF microphone because as you see the room behind us, particularly with COVID restrictions, people are set pretty far apart. So that's plenty of room for a person to wrangle a wireless microphone to the next person that raises their hand for a question. The person wrangling the microphone already knows when this person finishes, it's going to be that person over there. So there's not much of a time delay, but that way even if they're not good with a microphone, it's a unidirectional microphone. And that's how we pick up our audience questions. And if they don't articulate it well, or they ramble, then the host will rephrase the question, and then perhaps the host themselves will answer the question. And if you really want to get tricky, a bunch of us are old, well, we refer to ourselves as sound dogs from the early days of providing technical audio support for live entertainment, transition into corporate presentations, etc. So we've got quite a background in audio. And what we've done is we've been playing with mix minus, where you sample the ambient noise in your room. Ours is pretty noisy. And we put that out of phase with our audio that we send out over Zoom. So thereby the objective being to reduce our to eliminate if possible. And of course, that's not always possible. But as much as possible, reduce our background environmental noise before it comes out of our speakers, or especially before we send it to out over Zoom, because who knows what people are listening to there. And that worked pretty good, just like the old Beatles recordings were in mono, but you have it coming out of two speakers. So if you reverse the phase of that, you can actually use it as a vocal eliminator, like the karaoke sing-alongs or whatever. Well, with a variable phase balance, you can actually fine tune that. Now that means somebody's sitting over there drinking coffee, eating donuts, playing with that throughout the meeting, perhaps, because it changes a little bit. But anybody that wants to know more about mix minus, feel free to contact me directly, and we can tell you all sorts of silly stories and mislead you and cause you to waste a lot of time and things of that nature. We'd be glad to help you out where we can. But again, thank you, everybody. I've got 2 pages of notes here already, and love it. Thank you.
What do you use for that reverse noise thing?
The mix minus?
Sorry, say again.
Mix, M-I-X, mix minus. It's a intercom trick too, to get rid of ambient noise in high level noise environments. How do you get rid of that so you're only broadcasting, transmitting your desired signal? Basically, we take the background noise, we put it out of phase, combine that with the desired noise, and even though the desired noise also has that background, when you take the background by itself, put it out of phase, it removes it, just like a positive negative reinforcement of ripples on a pond. When you throw a pebble in, you throw another pebble. Sometimes the waves interact, they go away. Other times they're twice as high.
But what hardware or software do you use for that?
We use a little Yamaha mixer that has we started it, it had a phase reverse switch, and that worked pretty good. And we thought, well, but it's not working good enough. How do we elevate this? So what we came up with, it's an external little loop we run it through, that we can continuously vary the phase. Think 2 signal lines. We take one of them and we can take that from perfectly in phase to 100 degrees, 180 degrees out of phase. And you just rotate it until it sounds better. And then all of a sudden it doesn't sound better. So you go over and fiddle with it a little bit more until it does. And sometimes that's as good as you get.
Folks, take a look. Just Google mix, M-I-X, space minus, M-I-N-U-S. You will find a wealth of information on the web.
It's a lot of fun. And again, I appreciate everything y'all are providing, because I can't wait to get back and stumble about and mystify my mates with it.
Bear in mind, TechNet is one of the 2 groups I was talking about where I was offered 2 types of microphones when I walked in the door. I chose the headset because I tend to go like this and I would disappear. They are extremely strict when they run their meeting. My voice carries. When somebody said you could open the door and hear, that would be Huey and me. You could hear us giving a presentation from 2 blocks away. And yet their president insisted I wear a microphone, and I really didn't need to, because I put on my teacher mom voice and all is good. They have 1.5 tons of equipment. This isn't something that you can put together instantly, because over time they have used the equipment. They didn't meet for a couple of years, but they've got shelf after shelf after shelf of stuff that they've accumulated, and they have the members who know how to use it. Sherry, you're on.
Yes, Sherry Gira from Dolce Vita. I'm in Arizona. So we're a small group, and we actually hold our meetings in a card room.
Mm-hmm.
So we donated a TV because we have no budget, that we've hung on the wall. It's working okay, but it's a little high up, and sometimes I can't make the picture big enough for people to see it. So I'm looking at purchasing a projector, so one that's portable. I know, it's not ideal, but we have no place in there that we can mount something. There's no sound system whatsoever. There's like nothing. I'm looking for recommendations as to what would be a good one.
But do you have a
You just-
large white wall or screen to use?
I do have a large white wall, one.
Okay, we did purchase an Epson projector. We actually purchased 3 before COVID. Little did we know that we were not going to use them as much as we intended to. They are very bright, not heavy. They come in a bag, you know, like a laptop bag kind of thing. I can get you, I can look up the exact model number, which I'm sure has changed because we bought those almost 3 years ago now.
Right.
But Epson makes very good projectors.
Yeah, we're actually running a 50-50 to raise money to purchase the projector, because like I said, I have no budget.
Sherry, I'll be getting in touch with you about that.
Okay, thanks, Judy.
And that I forgot to say, that was the other thing. I took the projector and my laptop in, and that's how we ran our meetings. You can do exactly the same thing. And it's
Yeah.
super simple. I got 2 cases of matching cases. Projector stays in one. It's in my offices now that's been turned back into a bedroom. My laptop was in the other, and here I went with everything. So yeah, if anybody has a recommendation for a projector, please put it into the chat box. I'd appreciate that.
Yes, I did find the reference. I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you so much. Murray, you're on.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for everybody's presentation. I just would mention that I want to mention that I'm in Victoria, British Columbia, member of the Victoria Computer Club, and I'm involved with several. Okay, start my video. Yeah. Anyway, many of the groups, or many of the problems that we have, often we're in a place where we have to use Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi connection isn't that wonderful. Sometimes we've been able to use a hotspot if somebody has a good enough data plan on their phone, and that has worked fairly well in those kind of locations. When we're having to use Wi-Fi, what we ask is that any of the people who are present to please turn off their, do not use their computers, do not have their computers connected to the Wi-Fi, because this causes problems in the connection. But as far as equipment is concerned, what I found is very helpful in that environment is to have, I've got a camcorder with a directional microphone, so that whoever is talking, we move that camcorder, a webcam, and we move it in front of the person who is talking at the time. And that is very helpful. That makes it much easier for people to see who's talking and to hear them clearly. As far as other special equipment, we just don't have the room or possibility, and some of those groups don't have any budget at all. So it's just people using whatever they have that they personally own. And but we found it, I found that one of the groups is not part of Victoria Computer Club in Victoria, that whose Zoom meetings are especially successful, is the Victoria Genealogical Society. And part of the key is making sure that, like in this meeting, you have somebody who is fielding the questions so that it isn't interrupting the speaker, and also always watching carefully to see who is trying to get into the room so that the room is available. One of the problems that I've seen often with many of the meetings is that the link isn't available easily. There's I know that certain ones I have always have trouble with finding the link, and which often means that I'm late for the late getting into the meeting. And then if nobody's watching who's trying to get in, sometimes I never get in because nobody noticed that I was sitting there waiting for half an hour. Anyway, those are my comments, and thank everybody else for all their comments, and have a good day.
Thank you. The Tulsa and group in Hawaii that is no longer with us, they were very successful using a hotspot, but neither one of them had access. I wouldn't know a hotspot if it bit me, but I had been listening to people giving presentations on it, and it was quite successful for them with no problem. My suggestion was, if the person who offered the hotspot was on a plan where they had to pay for extra minutes or whatever, the club pick up the cost of whatever it was well worth it. Kurt, over to you.
Just jump in one quick question, Judy, just to let people know that there was one Wednesday workshop that we ran the Zoom on a hotspot because I had no internet.
So, thank you.
Okay, Kurt, sorry.
No, not a problem. I would strongly advise not to invest any money in a projector unless you really need the portability of it. You can go to, exclusive stores like Sam's Club or Costco and buy a 65-inch TV for probably about $400 right now, which well, it definitely is cheaper than any good projector. It'll give you a larger, clearer image, and it comes along with audio support. The key to using it, though, I offer this for the person that was having problem getting the display the right size and whatnot, is connect via HDMI, okay? And probably take and operate in a dual monitor mode, which means you've got your normal desktop stuff on your laptop in front of you, and then another screen that you can then take and extend to just for your meeting. I've got a projector within arm's reach of me, and it's a good projector, and I'll take a TV over that any day at all. Much easier. The key, though, is using an HDMI connection. Virtually all current laptops either have HDMI or can support HDMI simply. My laptop has I think it's a DisplayPort or something like that on it. I've got a little adapter to go to HDMI. Works great. Most of the other computers we use have an HDMI connection on them. Works great. We're in the process of putting dedicated HDMI cables in. So we've got a cable that'll reach to where it needs to be without somebody bringing their own, which has been our mode of operation.
Yeah, that is exactly how we're using it now. I hook up to the TV with an HDMI. And it works great. It's like I said, it just, because it's mounted higher, it's not ideal, and making what they're presenting larger on the screen, isn't ideal either.
When they're sharing a screen, they can take anything and fill the screen with it, dependent upon how they share it. Now, when you go into screen sharing, you have an option to share an entire screen or an individual application. I can take a dialog box from an application like the Pi Imager, okay, which will only give you a really small dialog box on your screen. With screen sharing, I can take and fill the screen with nothing but that. Okay, that's not a problem if you know how to do screen sharing and pick an application as opposed to sharing an entire screen.
Okay.
And if you'd like, I'll demonstrate that for you sometime.
Jeff.
Yeah, hi, I'm with Sun City Summerlin Computer Club here in Las Vegas, and we have a dedicated classroom with a mounted overhead projector and a screen. And I'm trying to resume our in-classroom meetings, and I'm having the same problem everybody else is. About half the people just are content to stay with Zoom. But I've been playing with microphones, and currently I have two Anchor S500s, what are they called? Power conference microphones. And one of those, you can Bluetooth two of them together. Unfortunately, one of them has to be connected to the host computer. But then I can put that out on in the classroom, and we have 12 tables with 32 seats out there. And so I could put it on one of the tables, and it seems to work fairly well, except that if you get somebody sitting over in the corner, and because everybody here is senior, they don't really, some people speak up and some people don't. And if they're sitting in the corner and they don't speak up, then you can't hear them. So what I've been experimenting with is a product called Voice Meter Banana, which is a digital mixer for, you could take up to 5 USB inputs from various microphones or sources and mix them together and send them to, I think it's about 3 audio outputs. And but I haven't perfected it yet. I don't know if anybody else has ever used that, but it's somewhat overwhelming. It's got a lot. It's like a mixer. You know, you see the mixer panels with all the slides and everything, and you can add echo, which I don't need. But anyway, so that's what we're trying to do. And I have used, I'm not sure exactly what a boundary mic is, but I've used a little flat, I think it was like $27 microphone that works very well if you put it in the middle of a table. But the issue I have is that I can't run cords across the floor because I don't want anybody to trip. And during COVID, passing around a handheld microphone was just not an option. And people weren't comfortable with that. So that's why I went to the wireless, but I still haven't found the ideal solution, but we're kind of getting there. That's it.
Thank you so much. And over to Judy again. Please unmute.
I'm also very forgetful. I'm in Florida, for those that are interested, and I have three questions. First of all, if you can give us an approach to an easy way to do the hybrid, if anybody knows how, because this is a little bit overwhelming for me to figure out how to do hybrid. 1, 2, we're having problems getting speakers. Nobody wants to talk. Nobody wants to speak. In the 90s, I had Microsoft, I had Intel, I had all the computer businesses. Now nobody wants to speak. Number 3, if you have speakers, please share. Number 3 is topics. When I ask our people, what are you interested in? They come up with nothing. They have no topics. And we have to carry on and figure it out ourselves, which is a very difficult process right now between the COVID. I'm trying to get a doctor from the hospital to do a Zoom on COVID. Technology, we're using the computer, but we'd like to know more about what's going on locally with COVID. I'm trying to get the library to come in. We used to have somebody from the library, and they can't get volunteers or workers. So I'm looking for topics that would interest our people and bring in new people. Thank you.
Again, John Kraut, I will field this one. Judy, we have a speakers bureau. John Kraut is a member. There's several people here who are members. We give presentations to groups at the drop of a hat. We probably have over 150 topics. And my suggestion always is send the PDF of the list out to your members. It is lengthy. Have them choose 2 or 3 that they would be interested in and see if you have a thread that you can pull from. Windows, Mac, devices, you name it. We have presentations for you. And it was put together many years specifically for the purpose of, I can't find a speaker, or the people in my group are tired of the same members giving presentations. So
Can you send that to me, Judy? Would that be
I
possible?
certainly will.
Thank you.
And it's on the website. Everybody really does need to check out the website every once in a while. It's our most used benefit. Carl, your turn.
Okay, I have a question that's somewhat different. I mean, I belong to a group, well, my condo group, which they run the meetings in the WebEx app by Cisco. Has anybody done that? Because they're not doing a very good job of the joint meetings.
That's why the Zoom people left them, is because they didn't want to move along and get into the modern world. So they left and formed Zoom.
Well, the person that runs it used to work for a security company. He'd used WebEx, so that's why we're using WebEx. He won't change his mind.
Oh, okay, one of those. Got it.
WebEx is not user-friendly.
No. Leaves a lot to be desired for those of us. Well, most of the others don't offer APCUG anywhere near what we need. And I've been on WebEx, Teams, you name it. And I'm thinking, oh, they're missing that. It's something we use, and the security is just fine.
WebEx is user unfriendly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's not that it's necessarily user unfriendly. It's for business.
Yeah.
It's more for business, and that ain't us.
And the other thing about the security is when the Zoom bombing, we could have had encrypted links. We could have had the waiting room. It's just that it was made for businesses, and we didn't think to use them because nobody bothered us. And all of a sudden, all the kids were out of school, didn't have anything to do. They've got the technology, and Zoom bombing, here we go. The first organization that got Zoom bombed in my area was Thousand Oaks School Board meeting. And it went from there. So it was as they say, the problem is between the chair and the computer. For Zoom bombing, we should have known better ourselves to shut it down.
Can I comment about Zoom bombing?
Yeah, you've been Zoom bombed.
We compared the two a couple of years ago, and Zoom was the answer.
Yep.
That's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
Just because it's WebEx is for businesses does not preclude the need for user friendliness. Businesses need something user friendly, just like all of us here. So that's no excuse from WebEx.
No, and the president of Zoom, he had all these suggestions and they weren't interested. So off they went. He and a whole crew of people left. So sorry, Carl, we're absolutely no help at all.
Okay, that's fine.
But you might want to tell him a bunch of presidents and et cetera from technology groups all said Zoom's the way to go.
Well, I also invited him to this meeting and he didn't show up.
Oh, okay. All righty, John Kraut, your turn.
I was struck by the number of folks who mentioned that they at least sometimes are forced to use Wi-Fi hotspot from a smartphone. And I wanted to make a suggestion that might make it more useful. And that is, instead of using it as a Wi-Fi hotspot, use your phone as a USB tether, connect it to the laptop that by USB, set it to USB tether, and you'll probably get not only a more reliable connection for internet purposes, but you may find that it runs at a higher speed. You can literally test the speeds of each method using a simple website called fast.com on the phone. And that will tell you, or on the computer rather, it'll tell you whether you get a higher speed by USB tether or a higher speed by Wi-Fi hotspot. The other advantage of the USB tether approach is that it uses less energy, which means it doesn't run down the battery on the phone as quickly as a Wi-Fi hotspot approach would. That's it.
And John, thank you so much for sending me a little blurb about that.
Quick question for John. What does it require any specific software to do that?
No, this is at least on my, I have a Android Samsung Galaxy S10, not the latest model by any means. And because I paid at the time when I got it, Verizon required a little bit extra for the option to do Wi-Fi hotspot. I paid for that, but that included USB tether, and they're both implemented in settings. So you don't have to get a third-party app to make USB tether work for an internet connection to a laptop. You may have to pay your carrier company for the right to use it, but if you're paying for a Wi-Fi hotspot, they probably included USB tether as part of the deal.
Thank you. Drew.
Somebody beat me to it just a few minutes ago. I sent you, Judy, a link to Voicemeeter. That's something that is for those of you who haven't heard of Voicemeeter, it's a software-based mixing board. And what it enables you to do is have more than one microphone. The basic Voicemeeter program supports 2, and the Voicemeeter Banana, which is the middle one, supports several more. And what we've been experimenting with, primarily me in a house, setting up computers all over the place, hooking 2 USB microphones or wireless microphones to a particular computer, like the meeting room computer where we run our presentations. This allows Zoom to use Voicemeeter as its microphone. So you can have 2 or 3 or 4 microphones that are live in the room at the same time, going through the same computer, so that you don't have more than one audio device connected at a time. And what the key is to just make sure that 2 people aren't speaking at the same time. Other than that, you can have one microphone connected to the person who's doing the presentation, and another microphone for people in the audience to ask questions so they could be heard in the room and over Zoom. And we haven't tried that in a live meeting yet. It's only been in a test mode so far, but I was curious to see if anybody out there in the world has actually used Voicemeeter in their meeting. And I'm guessing the answer is probably no.
Yeah,
But
not yet. I'm still playing with it, still trying to get it. I'm getting a lot of feedback and a lot of echo, which I don't want. So
I haven't had that problem, but I'm only using 2 microphones that are separated by at least a couple of dozen, at least 10 feet from each other. But
Drew,
that's something that, yep.
Drew, is it hardware or software or both?
It is entirely software. You install it on the computer that is doing the presentation, or the meeting controller computer. And then if you attach either USB or Bluetooth microphones, in my case, I've been using Bluetooth. So the computer, the software Voicemeeter will talk to the individual microphones. So if you have 4 microphones, Voicemeeter talks to all 4 of them, and Zoom uses Voicemeeter as its inbound microphone. So it's a software-based mixing board, and it's completely for free for use from the Voicemeeter company. They do encourage people donate money if you're going to use it on a permanent basis, but they don't require any specific amount of funding.
Drew, are you able to get 2 multiple Bluetooth microphones at the same time?
I have hooked up 2 Bluetooth headsets, microphones at the same time. What I have found is that you can only use it as a headset or a mic. You can't use it for both a headset, hearing and speaking. The Voicemeeter software requires that if you do hook up a headset that has both a microphone and a speaker, voice meter will demand and insist that you only use one or the other. So you can use headset as long as you have audio coming from a different speaker.
But you can have two Bluetooth microphones active at the same time connected to one computer?
Yes, it allows voice meter, the basic voice meter supports up to 2. And you can, I have hooked up 2 Bluetooth microphones to the same computer so that the Windows recognizes the 2 microphones. Once Windows recognizes the 2 microphones, voice meter will see that there are 2 microphones available, and you attach one microphone to its mixer board setting number 1, and the second microphone is mixer board microphone number 2. And the person on that computer can raise and lower the audio, can mute one of the microphones so that you can have the speaker microphone being the only live mic while that person is talking. And then when they're asking a question in the audience, that person controlling that computer can unmute the other microphone. And
can one of those microphones be the built-in microphone on the computer?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's also some other software called OBS, or Open Broadcast Studio, that will do cameras and microphones and so on. It's also free, and it's another one to look at. I just sent Judy a link to the website for that.
And Drew is with the Sarasota group in Florida. And
Yes.
would you send me a paragraph or 2 about what you talked about, please, so I can send that out to everybody?
Sure.
Thank you so much. Over to Gabe Goldberg.
Hi, thank you. I'm with Potomac Area Technology and Computer Society in Virginia. I wanted to comment on somebody who was looking for a simple solution. I recently presented at a group using nothing but my iPhone, my iPad, and their projector. I signed the iPad onto their Zoom session, and I was sharing my screen from the iPad. And so everybody remotely could see the screen. Everybody in the room could see the screen because we were projecting it. And I used an iPad iPhone feature to mirror the slides from the iPad to the iPhone, and the projector was plugged into the iPhone. The local projector, the in-room projector, was plugged into the iPhone through the Apple adapter that goes from the Lightning connector to HDMI. And so I could carry in one hand all the equipment that I needed. All we needed was a room projector, electricity, and a Wi-Fi connection, and it worked just wonderfully. And so I go to other meetings where they will have a tabletop or a room full of equipment, and I just marvel at the simplicity that was possible with my 2 devices.
And Gabe, you'll write that up in a little paragraph or 2 and send it to me?
Yes, I had already figured out that I needed to do that.
Of course. Thank you. Murray, you're on.
Okay, thank you. I just thought I would mention, when you were mentioning the WebEx, another one that's terrible in my opinion is Teams, Microsoft Teams. There's a company that insists on holding its meetings with that, and quite a few people have trouble with that one. But I didn't hear it mentioned. It might have been one of our groups quite successfully uses something called Jitsi Meet, which is free open source. And it's absolutely free, and it doesn't have the usual limitations that Zoom has on its web meetings. Most of our groups that use the Zoom web, use their the free edition, which means that after 40 minutes you get cut off. So we sort of have to schedule 2 meetings, one right after the other, to switch from one to another. And very often we lose people during that switch. So anyway, that's just a couple of comments on ones that don't work, and one that does work fairly well. I think Jitsi works better if you have some people who are quite technically oriented, but in that particular case, one of the members actually uses his Jitsi server. You don't have to do that, but he does that for our meetings. Thank you.
All right, just a tip about the 40-minute limit. You don't have to schedule a second meeting. You can reuse the same one.
Yeah, we do that for some of our Some of our groups do that, but you still get cut off and have to re-log in, and we always lose some people in that.
No, you
process.
don't have to re-log in. You just need to restart the same meeting. That's all.
Yeah, I know, but we still lose people doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we've done that, but we always find that some people can't figure out how to do it.
I got you.
People in APCUG who use Jitsi are all Linux people. Okay.
Yeah, our group is a Linux group too that uses Jitsi.
Yeah. Jerry Crow, your turn.
Okay, I'll turn on my video for
And you are in
while
with,
I'm talking.
you are with what group?
I'm sorry, I'm with the Phoenix PC user group. So, and I looked up Sherry. She lives out at the end of the 60 highway. I live in Scottsdale. So anyway, two quick things. First, I agree with the assessment that Zoom is the best, that WebEx really is bad news. And you know, it's easy to say that, and people say, well, you're just used to one, you don't like the new thing. No, WebEx is not good. And the other one that I go use once in a while because it's law enforcement, the government uses it, called GoToWebinar. Okay. That one is okay, but and I agree with Teams. In fact, I was astonished at how crummy Teams was because it's a Microsoft product. My take is that most of the places that are using Teams, they're using it because Microsoft, they've got a lot of other Microsoft software they have to have, like Office and things like that. And Teams gets bundled in and they save money, so they go with Teams. Secondly, when John was talking, you can get, I don't know if Verizon's doing this or not, John, but I know T-Mobile and AT&T are. You can take that S10 in, T-Mobile in, because I did it. I took my one in, gave it to the guy, and they gave me an S22 for nothing, the brand new one. Now, of course, it isn't really nothing. They spread it out over 24 months, and then they charge you and then deduct it from the bill, but it ends up being free. Now, whether Verizon's doing that or not, I don't know.
Jerry, Verizon does offer trade-ins. I have thus far stayed away because the new ones no longer have a micro SD card slot. And I have so much personal material, photos and music on my SD card. I just don't want to put it on even a 256 gigabyte S22 because I've got more space available on mine than the S22 would provide.
Okay, that makes sense. Because I had an S10 before, an S8 or S10, and it had a SD card, but you're right, the 22 does not have an SD card. And I don't store that much stuff on my machine.
I think the last model from Samsung that did have one was the S20. And my phone is now 3.5 years old. I'm considering getting a used S20 because it does have the card slot.
Okay. So I just wanted to mention that. And there was one other thing, but I can't remember what it was. So I will yield the talking stick back to Judy.
I am on, for some reason, a member of the FBI LA scams working group here in Los Angeles, and they use Microsoft Teams. And it's interesting that they really don't know how to use it. And the one person who knows how to use it couldn't come to the last meeting, so another person used Zoom. And she started the meeting wonderfully. And then she said, and I don't know how to use Zoom very much. So I had to coach them through all of that. And this with all the US attorneys. I mean, it was such a hoot. And one gal said, who was working in a building in downtown LA, said, we're not allowed to use Zoom. And she had to find someplace in the building that she could do a workaround so she could attend the meeting. So I just thought that was all really interesting that they use Teams, but nobody really knows how to use it. And they've been doing that for the last couple of years.
Judy, I'll give you a little update here from the heart of the federal government. I live across the river from Washington, D.C., and I worked with the FBI for many years. They do have technical people on their staff. Most of them are now located either in Washington, D.C. or in the Clarksburg data center. of the FBI. And like other federal agencies and even school systems, they love to choose a standard and stick with it. Unfortunately, when they choose a standard like Microsoft Teams, partly it's because the people who chose it figured we're not going to get fired because of this choice. But what they don't do is make it so that they have tech people whose jobs essentially become learning and supervising Microsoft Teams meetings. And therefore, it's in nobody's interest to really learn how to use it. I know teachers in the Arlington County Public Schools where I live who used Zoom before a standard was established. And guess what? The Arlington County Public Schools standardized on Microsoft Teams. And the teachers said, oh, how I wish we standardized on Zoom. Microsoft Teams is impossible to manage. And it's because nobody's in charge of managing it. Again, the school system has a much smaller tech staff. I can say with considerable experience that the FBI has a much larger tech staff, but as a total of its entire staff, it's still very small. Unfortunately, they standardize on things and then they don't assign somebody whose job it is to make the organization understand how to use it. Now, this is a soapbox topic that we could go on forever about, but I think we've said enough and I'll stop.
We don't have any techie. I just wish they'd get one of their admins to be on there to run the meeting.
Yeah.
Kurt, your turn.
Yeah, a comment about using things like the Banana Mixer and OSB Studio and whatnot. I would love to use tools like that in a couple of my environments. But the people that are running meetings and whatnot they're totally lost just running Zoom alone and sometimes configuring that appropriately. We've got to make whatever we put together for our groups usable by people that don't understand OBS Studio. Fantastic tool. Okay, my users are never going to fathom what it does or how to use it. And that's something that using mixers. I would love to say, put a physical mixer in this room because we can do all these things with it. Okay, but if I can't take number one and afford it, and number two, hide it away somewhere so that it works automatically all the time, I can't use it. Okay, because I have to have things that work sort of by the lowest common denominator. And I don't mean to say that my users are dumb or stupid or whatnot. It's not their bailiwick.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the people that I work with regularly, I love him like a brother, is 90 years old. Okay. And feels overwhelmed doing some simple stuff that he does very, very well. One other point that I'd like to make, we haven't heard it here, and I hope it's an underlying theme for all of our groups. I've said that my groups are going to remain hybrid as long as I have anything to do with it. In other words, I'm not willing to go back to only in-person meetings. There are too many people that we can serve that simply cannot join our in-person meetings. And therefore, solving this hybrid problem or finding ways to make it work, I think are imperative for all of us so we can serve those people that are a little bit harder to serve. Off soapbox.
I know, and I'll just put one little foot on it. We're just dealing with regular people. Those of us who are here, have a little tech bent in our head here, and we can understand stuff. Regular people, they're not interested in learning. They'll help, they'll plug cords and cables in, but you ask them anything beyond that and you've lost your volunteer. Next, we're going to Peter Hess, who is at the Dayton Microcomputer Association's picnic.
Hey there, APCUG.
He's supposed to be eating a brat for me.
Yeah, but it's
I
good
want one
brunch,
too.
Kurt, I completely agree with what you said about the we need to stay hybrid for at least our general meetings anyway. We have a bunch of SIGs too, that many of which don't even want to go online yet. But frankly, I think we're going to see, right now we're just about equal on in-person versus online attendees to our meetings. And of course, this meeting is all in person except for me. But I think when the weather changes, when it gets closer to winter, people won't be wanting to drive, and also it gets dark sooner. So our meetings end typically at 9 o'clock, and it's a couple hours into darkness by that time. So I expect to have tilt the scales towards online attendees. At this meeting, let me move this around. I don't know if you could see anything or not, but we have about 30 some people. Looks like it's all fuzzy, so you can't see much. We have 30 some people, 35 people at our picnic, which I think is pretty good for only having a membership of 57 and official membership of 57. At DMA's membership or attendee compilation is deceiving because we don't require people to be members to attend our meetings. So we have a lot of people who attend our meetings that are not members. But this one is reserved for members only and member guests.
Would you please tell them where your in-person meeting is?
Where our in-person meeting is, it's at, again, Dayton Microcomputer Association. Our in-person meeting is at TJ Chumps in Huber Heights. If you're familiar with Huber Heights and Interstate 70, it splits Huber Heights. It's within walking distance of the Rose Music Center in Huber Heights. And at TJ Chumps, they have 2 meeting rooms, and there's been a couple times where we've used both at the same time. You take the wall out of the middle, but most of the time we're comfortable with just one side or the other side.
Thank you.
Anyway, I wanted to apologize for not being part of this whole meeting and not listening to the whole thing, but you know, you have to get food and socialize a little bit. But I look forward to a copy of the meeting so I can get some of the great ideas that y'all have. We still have a problem with some of our members who are conducting the meetings, who are giving the instructional conversation, leading the instructional conversation. They don't know to look into the camera or face the camera and and get their mouth near the mic. And we're going to work on that a little bit more with some equipment. But right now, that's the only problem that we're having with our hybrid meetings, except for bandwidth. We're going to wire up the restaurant for them and to both meeting rooms. So we'll be able to have a direct connection to the internet instead of competing with everybody on their trivia night.
Cool.
Competing with everybody's Wi-Fi connection during trivia night.
Thank you much. Appreciate it.
I need just to comment that Dayton's
Judy,
one of my groups.
I see you talking, but I don't hear anybody. Did you?
Yeah, I would say that Dayton's one of my groups, and if I didn't have to be here today, I would be over there making a visit and having brats and good food.
And they're meet in Ohio. Murray, your turn.
Okay. First of all, I just wanted to mention that the one group here is not part of the computer club. The Victoria Genealogical Society jumped on the Zoom bandwagon very early when COVID first struck, with the result that the membership has grown. Their financial situation has improved immensely. The meetings now, of course, now we're back able to hold them. I'm sure that they'll all be hybrid from now on, because most of the meetings, we don't have the physical space to fit all the people who now attend. And of course, we certainly couldn't attend all accommodate all those people from Scotland and all over Canada and the United States that we get now that we would never have been able to have before. And they do require membership to attend the meetings, but it's interesting that these people have found there's enough benefit from joining the group that even though they live far away and could never attend an in-person meeting and can't use the in-house facilities for research, nevertheless, it's worth their time to get the benefit, and I'm sure they'll never go back to strictly in-house meetings again. Thank you.
With my groups, letting members from other APCUG groups attend their meetings. You can attend a meeting and you will find a whole bunch of people from other states. I was at a Columbus Computer Society meeting and giving a presentation, and there were people from 8 states. The following Saturday, I was in Prescott, Arizona, and there's 3 of those same people were at the Prescott meeting.
I also attend some of those other ACPUG meetings and other clubs, which is very one of the big benefits of the group of the organization. Yeah. I also wanted to ask a quick question. I wondered if any of the groups have used or tried Google Meet, or if it even still exists.
That's one of the 2 programs that I have not ever been invited to a meeting to experience it, but I take a look at it and it's bare bones.
Yeah.
I have attended Google Meets meetings and I was not impressed.
Yeah. It's missing a whole bunch of stuff that APCUG needs.
One of our leaders, a Linux guy by trade and sports windows and whatnot, likes things Google, and his company, the company that he works for, uses the Google product suite, and for his special interest groups, he chooses to run it with Google Meet. I have met with him there. I'm much more comfortable in Zoom, but Google Meet does work, or whatever they're calling it this week. And it's not a terrible solution. I like Zoom better.
Way back in the day, Jim Evans, who is no longer with us, read in the Wall Street Journal about the people leaving Cisco and migrating over to this new company. So he got in touch with them and asked if they would like some input from international tech organization full of seniors, and they said yes. So Huey in Florida, Judy in SoCal, and Jim in Ohio had an opportunity. We were each assigned someone to interface with, and I don't know, what Huey and Jim did, but I would get email questions and I would answer them on what we were using a program that really the technical word sucked big time, and we're looking for something new. But we had a really good time. It's being able to get in on the ground floor, so to speak. And then we had a think tank, so to speak, of people. And we said, go out and look at all these different things and see what you like, because we didn't want to do an edict and say APCUG is going to use Zoom. We wanted to be, let other people think it was as fantastic as we did. And they all said, yeah, Zoom's the thing to use. So we've been using it for many, 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 many years. And when we finally, bought our licenses, my contact was the person we got to deal with. And that was fun too. Over to Dave Brown.
Hi, Judy. Thank you. That's a great Zoom story. What you remind me, Zoom now has a 3rd flavor offering. They've got the basic Zoom meetings. They've had the webinars. Now they have Zoom events. I just took a tutorial on it last week, and it's it's a fairly sophisticated, complex thing, depending on what you're looking to do. A full-blown convention trade show with subcategories and presenters, and oh my gosh. So anyways, and it should be on the website. I missed a significant portion of it, so I'm going to go back and see if the presentation was recorded. Compared to a sales pitch offering, the presentation itself was very informative, but unfortunately I was multitasking. I've got a question for everybody. And this has a long time frame on it. Los Angeles City, not county, Los Angeles City has 99 volunteer neighborhood councils that geographically are divided up to cover all of the tax-paying voters, I guess you would, stakeholders of the city of Los Angeles. 99 discrete individual neighborhood councils, which are comprised of elected volunteers. That actually went dark at the start of COVID. Many of them, for an extended period of time, surfaced on Zoom. The bugs got worked out, been on Zoom ever since. Current talk is, when do we resume in-person and or hybrid? And of course, obviously, as many people have said, hybrid is unquestionably the way to go. 99 neighbor councils whose expertise level ranges from, some of them are got some sophisticated members and possibly equipment, all the way to your stick in the mud Luddites. And they don't all have to go hybrid all at once, but something that big, are there any recommendations how to even begin to think about an elephant that big, you know, steering it and helping?
Find somebody on the city council, whoever sponsors them, and get their buy-in on it. It's the only way you get to do it. In my valley, Santa Clarita Valley, which is one valley north of where he is sitting as we speak, we lost our ice station and our hockey. And my daughter had been, youngest daughter had been one of two who brought the Kings high school hockey league up here. And they asked the Kings if they wanted to buy it. They were $1 million short. And I said, contact the city. She goes, what? I said, up here, if you want to get something done, you go to the city council and you shine a light on it. And I said, get a comment card at the Zoom meeting, have many people behind you with comment cards. And it worked. She brought it out there. They bought the cube. They have a huge money-making thing, but people could have agitated among themselves forever. But until somebody found the value in the city hierarchy to buy the building and renovate it, nothing would have been done. And I mean, the kids were going out to Simi Valley, which is the valley to one west of us, and 45 minutes for practice, you know, 2 or 3 times a week, which was ridiculous. And so I suggest that anybody who wants to get anything done in their town, you know, speak before your city council and, you know, be a coherent person. And every once in a while, and when it happened, they all went before the city council and told them thank you, one after another. So that's my recommendation from you. And being ever so glad I don't have to deal with the city of Los Angeles. Bill James has been waiting patiently.
Hi, all. I just have a question. I mean, there's been a lot of discussion about microphones, and that's been probably my biggest issue. We have hybrid meetings, and we'll continue to have hybrid meetings. But microphone seems to be an issue for our club. And I just want to know the differences between, someone was mentioning boundary microphones, but I also know there are omnidirectional microphones and there are directional microphones. Can someone explain which ones should be used and how they should be used? I think that's really important. And I posted that in chat, but no one has answered it yet. Can someone address that, please?
Bill, I think I can at least get close to hitting that nail on the head. The PZM or boundary microphones are basically like a wide angle lens on a camera. They pick up sounds coming in from a variety of directions. An omnidirectional microphone picks up, is sort of like a telephoto lens on a camera, because it picks up from one specific direction, or what you might think of as a small cone of directions. And that's basically the best thing to use when you hand a microphone to a speaker in an audience, because it tends not to pick up all the babble from other folks around them, or people slurping their soda or eating their lunch or whatever. The boundary microphone is better when you are trying to pick up from a group of people. You set it on a table and the people around the table can be picked up without moving that boundary microphone. So that's it in a nutshell.
Well, see, when someone recommended me using, getting a snowball.
Snowball is technically a very narrow cone of pickup. I used to tell people, when you speak into this microphone, treat it like an ice cream cone. You want it very close to your mouth.
Okay, because
yeah,
and Kurt has said thumbs down for that snowball, and it's stationary. It's sitting in the middle of the room, and the idea was the fact that it would be able to pick up, you know, anyone speaking in the surrounding area, but it doesn't work very well.
No, that's actually, I misspoke. I should not have said omnidirectional. I should have said unidirectional. Unidirectional picks up from a small cone, and I think that's the type of microphone you have based on what you told me. I once set up 2 boundary microphones facing in opposite directions to create a stereo signal that picked up from the complete room. And if you were doing that, you'd have a better experience, although I think you still have to be, in order to be clearly intelligible, you still have to be fairly close to the boundary microphone, as in 3 feet. I think you probably, if you want to pick up from a broad area, you probably need 2 boundary microphones set up facing in opposite directions, or you need a small room. You need everybody sitting pretty close to the whatever microphone that you're using for that purpose.
They sit quite dispersed in a large meeting room.
Yeah, large meeting room, neither boundary microphones nor unidirectionals are going to do you much good unless you get the microphone very close to the person speaking.
Kurt?
And that means somebody carrying it around to hand it to each individual person asking a question, for instance.
Well, I think someone mentioned the fact that they placed a microphone right below their overhead speakers, and we have overhead speakers in our room.
That is intentionally for picking up the audio of the person speaking, but if the person speaking is not close to a microphone, it's not going to get through those speakers.
No problem there. It's just people in the audience speaking.
The experience we've had at Pat Aces is that we carry around a wireless unidirectional mic to each person whose hand is up so that they can personally ask a question through that microphone.
We have one of those. Okay.
And we had a comment in the chat box. So when you do that, you should tell the people to put the microphone right at their chin.
Yep, like an ice cream cone.
Yep, like an ice cream cone. And Kurt, is your little speaker thingy that you're put in the chat box for me
Open.
something that Bill should get instead of the snowball?
Well, I would recommend it. Buy it from Amazon if you want, so you can send it back if you don't like it. The pattern of a boundary microphone, and that ideally, and I think the Audio Technica that I referenced may have a pattern that comes closest to this. Think of something that is a half of a sphere, okay, a cone shape in all directions. That's the pickup pattern, the ideal pickup pattern of a boundary microphone. Now, I think it was John that showed a crown microphone. The pickup pattern for that microphone, and I've got some I want to test, is similar to that, although it's truncated by a plane, so that it's not a complete semi-sphere. And that boundary microphones, and we're considering doing this in some of our rooms at church, can be, you can put them on a table, and that's convenient because you can move them, okay? You can also take and mount them on walls. You can mount them on ceilings. You can mount them on speaker podiums, okay? And they may work very well in those circumstances. And that a comment about meeting rooms. Consider churches, okay? I'm a member of a medium-sized church that thinks it's a large church, tends to be fairly conservative. It's a good church, okay? I'm not knocking anybody. But using our facilities for an outside group is not something that we lean toward. So a year or so ago, when I needed a meeting room, I went to one of our pastors that was in charge of this one facility, and I said, hey, can I take and rent a room for a meeting? And part of the justification for that was, here's the way that we can take a church and have it publicly support our community. And the answer came back, yeah. And I said, well, you know, what would it cost? And the response that I got was, well, how much were you thinking? And I virtually had no budget, but I had talked with other, small universities. Can I use one of your classrooms? Because they're ideal, they're beautiful, okay? Technologically, and parking's available, and all of that. And the cost, I might get down to $100, and that's a little rich for our budget. So I said, well, how about 25 bucks?
Oh, geez.
Okay. And the response was, I'm sure that's sufficient. Okay. I wish I'd said 15. And we did that. Okay. The only problem with that meeting was we didn't get very many of our members to come to it. And that's a problem that we have had in the era of hybrid meetings and COVID. And it's a problem that we're having is finding people that want to come back together. One of our smaller groups that meets on Saturday mornings has said that there are some problems with bandwidth in the room that we were using. We're going to stay virtual, and that uses Google Meet. Another group is run by somebody who the focus of the group is Microsoft Office products. The guy that runs it lives in a world of Teams. His meetings run, I think, on Teams, although he might be using Google just to match what we do for our general meetings and that. So, there's an idea for you if you need space. And you can also go and say, hey, and in fact, I did this 2 weeks ago. It was a church function that I was trying to support. So I said, can I go in and install a couple of these cables permanently? Because I'm tired of hauling my own around. And somebody says, you want to improve the facilities? Go ahead. So I came in one day with a 16-foot, I think it was 20-foot HDMI cable and a 25-foot network cable. And I put in some cable tie wraps and mounted them to a wall so that they can't walk off. Okay. They're always going to be there. There's a hook for them to hang on, so I can just pull them out and use them. And if somebody wants to use somebody else, all they have to do is disconnect my cable, plug in whatever else they want to use. My stuff stays there all the time.
Many groups are having problems because where they met before COVID is they're no longer interested in renting to outside organizations. We have 2 groups in San Diego that are Zoom groups, and they met at the same retirement community. Difficult to find meeting places in San Diego as it is in the Santa Clarita Valley. And so they don't have a choice. APCUG is going to try quarterly meetings like the Saturday Safari in person or hybrid at a member's church, but it is in the opposite direction of where they normally met that was a central location. So there's all kinds of logistics problems out there, and you have been so good waiting to talk.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just had a couple of comments to make about other things people have said. Somebody early on asked how to get their members to want to come back. And I guess the thing is, back in person, I meant. one of the things is to do something that you can't do over Zoom. And our group is having an in-person meeting starting next month, and we've decided to have a tech swap and giveaway evening. So, you know, it's really hard to exchange all those doodads that you've replaced because you bought new ones and over during the pandemic. So that's one of the things, just an idea people could do. Have people bring their things they're not using anymore and give them away, or swap them for ones that other people are using.
Mhm.
Okay.
And what group are you with?
I'm with the Durham PC users group. So
Yeah.
it was supposed to be Dan here, but he had to go to a funeral, so he's gave me his spot. I'm his wife.
Boy, and he, well then, yeah, and I already told him he'll get all the follow-up stuff.
Yeah, that's right. So the other thing I wanted to mention is about Jitsi. I belong to a group that's of very non-technical people who are using it, and it is very easy. It doesn't have as many features as Zoom for complex meetings, but if you're having a meeting, you know, of an executive group or a smaller group or group where you know all the people, and it is the first time we used it, nobody had any trouble, even though they'd never used it before. So it's not just techie people like Linux guys that could use it, right? So I just wanted to mention that. The other thing is, somebody was talking about trying to get to use a cell phone to get a wide angle of the meeting, and having trouble because of the aspect ratios. I've done that I have a little tiny laptop, and so it's as easy to carry around as well, almost as a cell phone, but it has the shape, the 16:9 shape normally, and I kind of outsmarted myself in one way, though. One of the things it'll do is turn over and make a little tent, and I thought that would be cool to do, because then you could just sit it on a table, but then the camera was upside down. So, but you don't have to. You can put it like a little L shape, and then it worked fine. So instead of a cell phone, you could just find a tiny laptop, and they all have cameras in them, so it worked fine.
One of the reasons that we use the camera, and I'll give you a little tip on equipment, is because I can set it up and it is completely wireless.
Mm-hmm.
Small and whatnot. To hold this, I use what is technically a photographer's light stand.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon sells some that go to about 7 feet. 2 of them I think are $34. They're extremely lightweight. They're extremely fast to set up.
Mm-hmm.
They are nowhere near as complicated as putting out legs for a camera tripod and then ending up with something that's only 5 feet tall, which is a little bit short. I take those and I put a little 2 for $10 ball mount on the top of them to hold a cell phone holder, and they work just great. They're extremely fast and easy to set up, and no wires.
Kurt, are you using an Android phone or an iPhone for that purpose?
Android.
I'd like to mention an app to you that can give you turn that into a wireless smartphone with 16:9 aspect ratio. It's called Iriun, IRIUN. And that will give you not only 1080p resolution, but also 2160p resolution if you wish it.
John's going to include that in what he's going to send me too.
Actually, Judy, I think I sent that to you a couple of years ago, but they've added the 1080p resolution since that time.
Okay.
IRIUN?
IRIUN. Both the computer application that receives the smartphone's image and the app on the smartphone itself are freebies. They do not cost any money.
And Mr. Trout, would you send me a little blurb about your thing and take a picture of one that is set up?
I'm going I'm going to be setting it up tomorrow. If I remember to do it, take the picture, I'll be glad to.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And now we are to Tom Sweet from the North Texas group, who is the person who uses Teams for sure and always has.
Regarding Google Meet, I've had about 2 years of experience using it to coordinate care and support for elderly family members. It's acceptable for small groups. The leading decision criteria for using it was several of the non-technical people already had Google accounts due to Gmail and Android phone use. So it was already there, and I didn't have to teach them anything else. I would say that it's severely inferior in terms of host controls and a lot of other things. Under 5-10 persons. And now with the June merger with its Duo product, seems like its primary market target isn't applications like this, but more maybe looking at being a FaceTime competitor. It's good for a topic if you've got to, teach people how to handle, I've got 4 or 5 family members dispersed around the United States, focusing on helping family in San Diego. And so it works for that application, but I wouldn't dream of trying it with a user group or anything greater than a small SIG. That's that on. Thank you very much. Appreciate everybody's contributions. I've got pages of notes like everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Shelley, it's your turn.
Hi, I started with a comment, but I'll add a question after it. I was concerned with Kurt was saying, how do we get people back? How do we get people back? And I was afraid that he was going to be forgetting people who are still in a pandemic very vulnerably and are not going anywhere. It's not because we don't want to. And I'm afraid that in Arizona, I was thinking people in Florida were doing what people in Arizona were doing. And they've all been back. Many people have been back in person doing everything. Arizona as a state only shut down for like 2 months. People said, hey, stop doing this with our freedom. And they opened right up. But there is, I call us the quiet minority of people who are not going anywhere and are not being very vocal about it. Where are we going to run around and be vocal about it? We're just at home in front of our Zooms. So I think a bunch of the groups that are going to open up in the fall here are dropping Zoom because almost everybody is going in person and they're going to leave out the few people. However, so that's my comment, that I'm worried about Arizona, where we are. And just in the last couple of weeks, 3 of the things I belong to, not counting our senior things here, have said, we're going to live stream. Zoom is of the past. And I'm saying, what's live stream and how is that going to affect us? The leisure world in the spring tried to do something that I think they were calling live stream. I hope that's not what they're going to continue to do with it, because they put a camera way up in the ceiling about 40 feet from everybody. And we couldn't really hear hardly, we could barely hear, and we couldn't even tell which people were speaking, like at their board meetings. And I hope that's not what they're going to call live stream, that we're not really in the front row and can't take part. And I was wondering what you people at APCUG know about live streaming.
I know the Sun City Center Computer Club in Florida during the height of COVID live streamed, but they use Zoom to live stream through, I believe, Facebook, which is one of the things that you can do. But on their end, it was, they were using Zoom and it acted exactly the same way on their end. We just clicked on a link and we were there.
What you tend to lose there is the opportunity for your remote people to participate.
Yeah, that the chat box is strictly for, it's just that. And, you can't I have a question, type thing. When there's
Yeah,
no,
it's just a video feed.
Yeah.
For it just gives a broad view of the room.
Mhm. And some of the things we've talked about today, bear in mind, not only do we have just regular members, but we have groups that have no money. I have $800 in my checking account, and we'll probably not get any more because I'm not charging dues anymore, because we're a Zoom meeting and we'll pay our web hosting and our domain name, and that's about it. Other groups have high double-digit $50,000, $60,000 in their checking accounts, and they're the ones that can afford all this kind of stuff. There's the majority of APCUG groups are similar to my small group with not much money in the bank, so to speak. And I love Kurt's, pricey. God, I had to pay $80 at the senior center. Murray.
Okay, a couple of things. First of all, I just want to mention about open webinar. I find that it's mainly good for just making presentations with only feedback in the chat area. I find the biggest problem with there's one group that it uses open webinar very extensively, and I find that the problem with it is that the recordings are often a bit wonky. When they do transitions, there's a little window a little wheel that spins around and between, and I just find that annoying. As far as microphones are concerned, if you remember when you were meeting in person in conferences and things like that, the standard procedure was always when people asked questions from the audience, it was somebody would carry a microphone, a unidirectional microphone over to that person, and then that person would ask the question so everybody could hear. And that is what I think is by far the best. You can do that easily with either a microphone with a long USB cord or a wireless microphone, and I think that's by far the best for dealing with that kind of situation. And so those are a couple of my comments from what people have been talking about. But certainly I think that the one thing that I found for microphone, our meetings are small enough and we're sitting around a table, and what I have is a unidirectional microphone that is on a little tiny tripod. It's only four inches high or so, and I can pass that around to whoever is speaking. Actually, it's a webcam and microphone, and I can pass it around so you can see the person speaking and you can hear them very clearly, and that works very well.
A quick comment, please. USB microphones do not work on long extension cables. The USB standard is, I think, somewhere between 15 and 30 feet. And I know if I take this USB microphone that I recommend and stick that on a cable that's about 20 feet long, it simply does not work. The computer does not see the microphone.
Yeah. Well, our tables aren't nearly that long. I'm talking about 8 foot. So that's certainly no problem. Yeah. And but so yeah, the wireless would be better if you're going to be moving around a big room. Oh, and I just thought I would mention probably the biggest free conference that I've attended 2 times now that had all kinds of breakout rooms, simultaneous sessions, and all that kind of stuff. But I think it was Zoom that was used, but there were over 1 million attendees. That was Roots Tech, and it is the biggest genealogical conference in the world, and they had hundreds of speakers. They had and they had it set up so that obviously, if there's 30 groups going on at the same time, you can't attend them all at that time, but the recordings were all available for 6 months after the session. But that, if you want to take a look at that, I think they'll probably do it again next year in January or February. And if you just want to look at it, see how a really huge meeting can be run very, very well, that's a terrific example.
And back in the day, we were told as presenters to always repeat the question. That was SOP for us. And we've forgotten about that. So if you don't have microphones in your room, have somebody stationed next to whatever, you know, your laptop. In my case, it would have been my laptop. I would repeat the question, or somebody else would repeat the question from the person in the back row that everybody in the meeting room could hear, but nobody on Zoom could hear. And, you know, we should have been doing that automatically, but most of us who give presentations, we just answer the question. We don't bother to restate, rephrase, or whatever. Joni, you're on. Unmute. Thank you. Unmute, please. Lower left-hand corner.
Sorry about that. Thank you all for all your information and everything you're doing. I am a member of TUGNet, which is in San Fernando Valley, a section of Los Angeles. And we too can relate to everything you all are saying, that pre-COVID, we were quite active with 25 to 40 members. We had to pay for a membership, buy snacks at the meetings. Dave would do wonderful at setting up audio video, Dave Brown. And we've met once since COVID in 2.5 years, and that was at a restaurant. I would even like to see us do Zoom meetings. We've not even connected at all since COVID. One meeting in person at a restaurant. So I would like to see that be further developed. We had great speakers historically and great meetings. Perhaps I'll contact the chair to see if we could get our group reactivated. It would be wonderful.
You are, Joni, could you mute? I guess that's okay. You are one of only 2 or 3 groups that have not met. There was one in Arizona that their board didn't trust Zoom, so they shut it down. They are just coming back on board now. But I see Bob G shaking his head. He gave you guys a presentation every single year via Zoom. It wasn't hybrid, it was Zoom to the meeting room. I came down in person and gave a gazillion presentations over time. Yours just over the hill. But to not be using Zoom is atrocious. And I tried to get people interested in using it, and everybody referred it to the president, who is not pro Zoom. And it's really cool. All your members have to do is click on a link, and we're all talking to each other just like this. Gabe Goldberg, you're on. Sandy Cornish is our last speaker, and you're going to have to answer your own questions about Windows or Chromebooks or devices or stuff like that. Gabe.
I just wanted to comment. Certainly, I think hybrid is the way to go. All the groups I'm involved with, technology and otherwise, have recognized some people don't want to come in person. Some people don't want to go online. The only way to reach everybody is to be hybrid. But the comment I was going to make is that a month or 2 ago, I think it was when one of the groups was meeting in person for the first time after COVID, coincidentally, we had just bought some logo stuff to give away. I had wanted to do that for a while, and we bought 100 coasters, cork coasters from 4 Imprint. And so it was a welcome back gift. Everybody is a winner. Come to the meeting and get a coaster. And so we had a not bad turnout, and everybody walked away with a functional door prize that also serves as advertising. And I advocate to lots of different groups, give stuff away with your logo, your name, and a website. And I've got screwdrivers and coasters and all kinds of tchotchkes that different groups have given me. The way that I found the first group that I joined, Capital PC User Group, a very long time ago, I saw the group's magazine on a friend's coffee table. And most groups have gotten away from printing magazines, but coasters and screwdrivers and flashlights or just anything like that that you can get for $1 or $2 or $3 if you buy 100 of them serves as infinitely long advertising, getting the word out.
Bill James Group, the Computer Club of Oklahoma City, had a month. This is the time to renew your dues, blah, 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 blah. And then they had all kinds of food, renewal membership people, come on down and let's eat. And they had a gay old time. They had a presentation. Everybody won a door prize. They had something for everybody. And it was novel. I have never known of any other group that has ever done that. And it was an incentive for the people to remember to pay their dues. They'd also changed from, I believe, January to June or whatever, or staggered membership. And it was quite successful. So you might, again, think of something like that. Bob G., it's your turn.
Thanks. Live stream for the person attending is basically the same as being there for Zoom, with one exception. You have to type your question and hope the person on the other end sees the chat. But outside of that, you see the same thing as the person who was there in the Zoom meeting. We use it quite often because the license only covers 100 people. And when you go over that, if you didn't have live stream someplace else, like Facebook or YouTube, you could only accommodate 100 people. With live stream, that now exceeds that 100 people limitation.
Thank you so much for defining that. John Kraut.
Judy, did I ever send you my article on live streaming with Facebook and Twitch from Zoom? Do you recall?
I think so, but you might want to revisit it.
Yeah. The prior speaker was absolutely right. It's real easy to set it up, particularly on Twitch. Far easier to initiate that when you're in a Zoom meeting than it is to initiate a live stream to Facebook. Judy, I wanted to thank you for muting me because I'm sure you heard me clicking on my keyboard. I'm halfway through creating the note on how to USB tether. And that's all I wanted to say.
It wasn't me, it was John. And you might want to think about just turning that key click off. And Sandy, take us away, so to speak. Unmute yourself, kiddo. Unmute. Sandy, please unmute yourself, lower left-hand corner.
I'm from the computer use group in Leesburg, Florida, and we are not meeting. Our mistake was we relied on one person to be president for 15, 20 years, and he resigned. They asked me, and I'm 84, and I said, you'd have the same problem next year that you have now. We lost Jerry Minnick, who was wonderful and gave us all kinds of wonderful programs. But those two people, only those two people, kept our club going. Once they resigned, it fell apart. So what I want to caution, I learned so much here, and they asked me to be president, chairman, and I said, learning all this today, not on your life. No, I'm too old to learn new things. And but I'm the IT person for the church. The same thing is happening. I'm the only person that runs a church sign, the only person that knows how the Wi-Fi, the only person that knows how to do this. You cannot leave it all in one or two people's hands. And so when you say, how do you get more people? I think the more people we train to be leaders, the better the organization will be. And that's my sermon for today.
Some groups have overcome that by having co-presidents, co-program chairs, 2 or 3 people who said, I will schedule one presentation. You have your speakers bureau, You have guru at, you know, the gurus will answer your questions and you do things like that. And are you aware that your members have been invited to join the Royal Highlands group, which is a hop, skip, and jump from you, as well as the Sarasota group that you would join via Zoom?
Or I don't know if Hawthorne is still active or not, but, and the Villages isn't too far away either.
We don't have anybody with the Villages, but Diane Binder would love to have you guys join her group, and you blink your eyes and I think you're at Royal Highlands.
Yeah,
And
well, yeah, down the street.
Nobody told me your president resigned because I gave Huey his contact information, and it took him quite a while to get back to me because he was traveling out of state and everything. But so he did pass the information on to you guys that you're welcome to join either one of those groups.
No, there is no communication right now of any kind.
Okay,
with our group.
I'm sending you all the stuff. Okay.
Oh, thanks.
Well, no, but if you've got the membership list, like I said, oh, and there she is in her office, not in her car, driving towards the Keys. But Diane, she'd love to have you guys join.
Yes, I already sent Roger an email. He answered me and said that he was going out of town and he would take care of it when he got back.
I will send you Sandy's email address. Okay, Diane, and I'll just step out of the picture.
Okay, thank you.
Huey, do you want her email address too to make your offer again?
Absolutely.
You got it, kiddo. And the Westchester PC Users Group, formerly newly Tech Ed Connect, they offer a membership for guests, so to speak, as does the Computer Club of Oklahoma City. And it's a minimal, what is it, $10, Bill?
$10 to join.
$10 to join, and you can attend any of the Oklahoma City study groups, and they have one each week, plus 1 week they have a couple with a general meeting. And the Westchester group has tons of stuff for people to do.
Yes, let me jump in here. This is Pierre from Tech Ed Connect, formerly WPCUG. We offer any member who is a member in good standing of a club who is in good standing with APCUG an associate membership of $10 a year for the first year.
Okay, so we got stuff out there to help you guys whose groups disappear. And Sandy just talked about the worst thing that can happen to a group. And we have more groups close because there was one person who did everything and they said, I'm done. And when you ask the members, do you want to disband? Oh, no, absolutely not. And yet nobody will step up to the plate. And unless you're like many of us presidents who are also the program chairs, being president is the easiest job to do. You introduce the speakers at the general meeting, you welcome people, you have the board meeting. It's the program chair who's got the worst job. That's why having 2 or 3 people share the load isn't, and they can choose what they would like to be. Would you like to be the one again that organized Guru Q&A? Would you like to be the one who looks at the speakers bureau list and chooses somebody from that? And that way the burden is spread. Most groups no longer have newsletters, and so the website person is the next time-intensive job if you keep the website up to date. So don't fall in the trap of being the one person who does everything, or your group will fold. Do we have anything else that, nope. Okay, it's way past time for, oh, Kurt, quick. Unmute.
There we go. I put a note in chat for you, Judy, but I'll take and make the offer to the group as a whole. At the end of this meeting, if anybody is interested, I will take and start a Zoom meeting up using the TCPC general meeting link. Go to tcpc.com. You will find our event calendar on the front page. Click on the general meeting one, and you'll find a Zoom link to that meeting if you're interested.
TCPC, Twin Cities Personal Computer.com.
Com, not org.
.org. Okay. And they're about the only group that advertises their Zoom link on their website and got away with it, except for, I think they got Zoom bombed once.
Nope.
Gee.
Just a reminder, October is right around the corner. If you haven't booked your cybersecurity presentation for then, provided the spot's still open, don't forget to do it.
Let me tell you about, guys, you better get your name listed on that spreadsheet. Send me a request. You got, jtolore@apcug.org, and I will just immediately, if your date isn't taken, or how many, did I schedule you for 4 presentations one day?
Yeah, which is okay.
Yeah,
by Zoom, I can do 4.
I'm not giving 4, he's giving 4. You scheduled me for 4 presentations. Of course, they're all in different time zone, and it worked out just fine. And Melbourne, where are you? Brantford, he would love to give a presentation to a group in Australia. Back in the day, he would have loved for he and Alice to be able to fly on a vast dime to come and give you a presentation. But he doesn't mind being up in the middle of the night giving you I know Gene Barlow did from User Group Relations did one time. Oh, David Lerner, you got here. Thank you. It's your turn. Unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm from Westchester PC Users Group, who just changed our name, as you just mentioned. We have about 200 members, and we do about 4 presentations a week, and we would be delighted for people to join us.
And their SIGs are quite in depth. If you go to wpcug.org and look at their calendar, you'll see what they have to offer. Okay. And you're all welcome to attend because you're members of other groups, and I'm a member. Too cool. John, take it away. It's time for my breakfast.
It is. And this is amazing. When Judy and I talked about what to do, because some other ideas had fallen through, and she says, do you think we can talk for maybe about an hour, and then we'll have an hour of a help desk? Well, we are now 2 hours and 45 minutes, and there's just no time for the help desk. This has been terrific. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough people here, but you can share this information, and eventually all of this will be on our YouTube so that everybody else can hear all these terrific ideas. And if you didn't go away with something, you were sleeping through this whole thing, because from the very beginning, we got some great ideas. Well, that ends things for August. There is one more Wednesday, very, very, very special Wednesday, but we don't usually do a fifth Wednesday. And if we did, I would have told Judy, I'm not going to help you because that's my birthday. So,
and you're so, thank God, you're finally a year.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. So we have already started planning September and October, but we always can use new ideas, new presenters. So, help us out, folks. We've been doing this for 2.5 years or so, and our brain just kind of got getting, what do we do next?
I can talk about September because I've got
Sure.
the second Wednesday, it's going to be Bill James with his Samsung Watch and health apps, and Jerry Rogan, our new Apple person, doing the iHealth apps. See how, what one has compared to the other and how they mesh and everything. And then we'll have our usual Linux the third Wednesday, and John is going to start working on that. And then the last Wednesday, Bill James and our president, APCUG's president from the Payson Group in Arizona, will be talking about, over to you, Bill, because I can't get him to send me a description. So you're going to be talking about, with the help of Mike Ungerman from Florida. So we'll have Arizona, Oklahoma, and Florida as the team on talking about
home theaters.
Home theaters. Judy read an article about it months ago and sent it to Bill, and it kind of frittered around. And then Ray said, gee, because that's his thing, music and stuff like that. And they've been working on it ever since, and it will prove to be extremely good. And they're going to get the whole entire meeting time, because there will be 3 of them chatting about what their particular area of the presentation. So like John said, if you have ideas or you give a presentation at your group, this is the same thing. We're just on Zoom, and feel free to get in touch with me and say, hey, you might think about getting a presentation on blah, blah, blah. And the first thing I'm going to ask is, is that something you have given? That happened to poor Craig Wright and his cohort in crime from Arizona Mac Group, the Prescott Mac Group. I attended their meeting and said, could you give the presentation at an all Apple Apps meeting? And he said, of course. So be aware when I attend your meetings. I will be at the Westchester group with their new name on September 1st to see Dave Lerner's presentation.
And you don't have to be an expert.
Nope.
All you have to do is share something with us that you're passionate about and help us learn something new. That's the whole Wednesday workshop.
My member, Dave Melton, gave a PowerPoint presentation to my group, his very first one in the whole free world after he had retired. And I said, would give it a Wednesday workshop, and it was deer in the headlights, but he did. And he has given presentations many times now as part of the Linux team. And the comments I get in the chat box, that it's so good to see that somebody who is just starting out giving presentations is giving it to people who are wanting to learn. And it obviously doesn't make any difference if it's from those of us who've been using technology for 30 years and more and giving presentations versus somebody who has just started out. So warts and all, we love to have you. I'd love to have you. I get turned down more than I get a yes, which really bothers me.
So thank you again for attending. A benefit of your group's membership to APCUG and your membership to your local group. We'll see you in September. It's almost the fall time. Summer's almost over. Enjoy this last few days. See everybody next time.